right, guys, welcome on this sensational Saturday. This is Breakfast with the Brand, of course, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to take their brands to the next level. If you are tuned in live, go ahead and put some flames in the comments and let us know where you're listening in from. I am Junior Frederick, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Bobby Stealth. And today we're gonna be diving into a little bit of sales. All right, so Bobby, how you doing?
Man, doing great, Junior. Doing phenomenal this morning. Sales. Oh, gotta love it. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. One of my favorite salesmen is to this day Zig Ziglar. I know he's a super old guy as far as the modern age is concerned, but I'm excited to dive into things. I feel real good today. Today is my run day. So every time I get out there and I'm able to do a nice, good run in some nice low humidity, I feel very clear. So,
Nice. I mean, it's amazing. Funny enough, Bobby, the news says that we're supposed to be having a storm today, actually, but it looks like God has other plans, right? So right now it's blue skies, it's sunny, and it looks like a beach day, actually. So that's very interesting. Yeah, guys. So today we're gonna be getting into the art and the science of sales. Bobby, I think we're gonna combine the sales with the personal development because that's really and truly what it's about. That's the part that I'm most interested in. I'm not really, of course, I'm interested in the mechanics and all of that, but I'm particularly interested in the growth, in the personal growth part of sales. And most likely that's what we'll be diving into, amongst other things. Of course, guys, this is live. So if you have any questions, if you have any perspectives, if you agree or if you disagree, it's okay. All right. So like please feel free to go ahead and put that in the chat. All right. So Bobby, let's get right into it. Let's go into it, and then we're gonna get into a break, maybe the next 5 minutes. But let me ask you a question. Let me kick off. Let me kick off with a question. So my question to you, Bobby, would be in the beginning. So you making your, I use the word debut, like your debut
yeah.
into the arena of sales. What were some of the, I guess, the pitfalls or the hard lessons that you had to learn? What were some of the hard lessons that you had to learn in the beginning?
Man, one of the hard lessons was energy control, like state control. So after you hear no, the first time you're still fired up and excited. You hear it the 30th time, you're like, okay, somebody's still ready to buy. You hear it the 60th time and the 75th time, it's like, really? Is nobody buying today? Really? And then you get to call 100 and you're just like, wow, I set one appointment. Or wow, I set three appointments, but you didn't close the deal. So one of those things that I had to learn that was a bit of a learning curve for me was that there are going to be some days that you're hitting it, you're just crushing it, everything's falling. And then there's going to be days where you don't feel like you can catch a break. And it's your responsibility as the sales professional to give the best energy to every potential client that you speak with. And that was the challenge for me.
Yeah, so I call that, well, it is state management. I call that weeding the garden of your mind. That's the way that I think about it. And I think every salesperson, and by the way, if you're in business, you are in sales. So I'm gonna just say everybody, I think everybody should do this at least once a quarter, at least once every few months. You want to sort of pull out those weeds that start to assemble, right, Bobby? So, and by the way, you may be at this point, right? Where it's like the weeds are starting to grow. You have to literally go in and you have to plug that stuff out. You have to plug that stuff out, maintain a great perspective. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of conscious work to actually do that stuff. One of the toughest things for me, the toughest things that I had to learn is, and this is me just learning for experience.
Mhm.
Sales is like as a salesperson, you operating as an athlete. You're operating literally as an athlete. And I learned this because one day, Bobby, I was making some calls and I was standing at my desk. So sometimes right now I'm sitting down, but sometimes I stand up. I don't like to sit down all day. They say that Sitting apparently is the new smoking. I don't know if you heard.
Yeah.
Sitting is apparently the new smoking. So I don't try to sit all day. So I'll stand up. But one day I said, you know what? Let me just stand up for today. Let me just, put myself to the test. I stand up. And also when you stand up, you could project your voice projects with more energy. It's a different vibe. You're up, you're ready to go, you're excited, you can flow, you can walk about. And if you have a headset or a headphone, you could walk around the office. And if you're at a height, I remember once I was walking around the office and I'm looking down, I'm looking at the I have a garden to the back, I'm looking at the garden, I'm looking at the birds, and I feel now check this out in my mind, okay, in my mind I see myself in like the top of like the 45th floor,
Yeah.
and I'm making those sales calls, and I'm envisioning the future, right? So like having a strong vision for the future is very important, okay. So anyways, I was making calls, and then when I got to number 20, I'm like, hold on, how long have I been doing this? I looked at the time. I was only there like 15 minutes. I'm like, man, that felt like I was there an hour. And I'm imagining like making 100 calls for the day. That's like you're on a treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm talking about, Bobby. So that at that point, I realized, hold on. The way that I'm approaching this is wrong. Like the psychology, the approach, the way that I'm coming into it thinking that this is just like a regular job where I'm at the office when I should be coming in thinking that I'm about to run a marathon and pace myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have your water, same way you run a marathon, you have your water right next to you. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't, you should. Okay. And then you come in and you're thinking, well, I'm just about to make a few calls. No, 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 no. When you get to call 20, call 20 will feel so heavy. It feels like you've already done 100.
Mm-hmm.
And you,
Junior, audio.
okay, I think, can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right. So, like I was saying, when I got to 20, it felt like 100. But when I set the right expectation, I came in with the right mindset, it was easy to get to 100.
Yeah.
And to me, that was one of, and there are many, I'll share the rest. That was one of the toughest things I had to learn because that affects your state. When you hit 20 and you have no results, okay, you start to get down.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to my next point. There's something called a waterline, and everybody should write that down. I learned this. I started to realize, hey, Junior, if you make 30 calls per day, you get no results. So, Bobby, I would make 20, no results. I'll make 30, no results. I'd make 40, no results. I'll make 50. Then I started to get, I got one.
Yeah.
By the time I got to 100, I got three. And I started to realize that there is a water line. So, for example, this is like a glass. So, this has some water in it. Okay. The water line is the top of this glass. Okay. The results that you're looking for have to spill over this glass. In other words, if you don't fill this up enough with enough, calls, with enough activity, you don't get the spill over and thus you don't get the results. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a volume game. But if you don't understand that, you could literally get to number 49. I tested this, Bobby. You could get to 49, and if you don't cross the 50, you get zero results. But as soon as you cross the number 50, you start to get one, you start to get two, you start to get three, you start to get four. It's called a water line. That's what I call it. It's called a water line. But if you don't know that and you can't set the right expectation, you end up just running around in a circle, literally.
Junior, one thing that I like about this perspective is that it lets us know how serious sales really is, because that's the only activity, believe it or not, that brings money into a business in the form of cash, right? Now you can obviously take a loan and stuff like that, but money in the only way that happens is through sales. And sales is one of the last things some entrepreneurs want to do. So I'd love to talk a little bit about the reluctance to sell, because that's where I find a lot of entrepreneurs are. They're at this space where they're like, They have the heart of a nonprofit 501(c)(3) person, but they have the mindset or the desires of a business owner for profit. So, what do I mean by that? A lot of times I'll talk to people and they'll tell me that they want to help everybody. They want to save the children, they want to save the aunts, the uncles, the people that can't pay. They want to fight the fight of oppression. That's great. It's great. But then I ask them, okay, who do you want to sell to? And then they say, I don't want to sell to anybody. They can't afford my services anyway. I'm trying to help them. And then I say, huh? You're not trying to sell to anyone? Like you're just trying to work for free? And they're like, well, no, I don't want to work for free. I want somebody to pay me. I just don't want the people that I want to give my services to pay me. And now I'm just like, interesting. That's going to create a interesting experience for you in business if you don't want to sell to the people that you want to help. And the reason that is because it's possible, but that's the 501(c)(3) model. That's where you put together a program and then you market that program to philanthropic entities or grant funding entities. They give you the money and you go out and do the business. Now, if you try to build a for-profit business without sales, you're pretty much trying to build a for-profit business with a nonprofit finance model. And the reason this doesn't work is because in the nonprofit space, a lot of your income, a lot of your money is going to be coming to you at large sums. Okay, large sums for you to budget out over long periods of time. In business, however, you're going to spend large sums of money and the money's going to come in fits and starts, in ups and downs. We call it the EKG machine. So what you have to be able to do to win in sales and to win in business is to be able to feel the sales pipeline. And a lot of times individuals just don't want to do that because they're reluctant to sell. So I'd be interested to hear some of your experiences with reluctance to sell, Junior, if you've ever had that at all. Or did you come out the gate like, if you got my money, I'm coming to get it? And you're just like hitting people.
Listen, man, let's check this out. Of course, there was reluctance to sell. Like in the beginning, everybody has that, and that's just a natural progression. And me having matured, I think I could pinpoint sort of why that happens. I'm just gonna say, I think it's just the wrong perspective. That's all. Because you see, oftentimes, you see, we come into like I know for me, when somebody told me about sales, everybody, you're thinking of the what do you call it, the sleazy car salesman, right? Nobody wants to be that guy, right? Nobody wants to be that guy. So when somebody says to you, well, you have to do sales, you're like, what? You're like, nah, 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 nah. I can't be, I'm not. I had somebody tell me once, I'm not begging people for money. That's what they interpret it as. So when you come in, if you don't know anything about it, the only way that you can judge it is based on what you heard other people say. So some people will say, well, it's like you're begging people for money. Some people will say like, oh, you're sleazy, you're a con artist, things like that. So that's what they associate, most people, that's what they associate it with. But it's only because they have the wrong perspective. The right perspective tells you that sales is not something you do to somebody, sales is something you do for somebody.
Mm, that's good.
Sales is not something you do to somebody. Sales is something that you do for somebody. Okay. And when you're a professional and when you do it right, you help people. You don't take advantage of people. Nobody wants to deal with an amateur. An amateur is somebody who's the sleazy salesperson is an amateur. Okay. Nobody wants to deal with an amateur. Everybody wants to deal with a professional, somebody who is not attached to the sale. I just told somebody yesterday. I was having a conversation with a young lady yesterday. She was trying to. She had the wrong perspective. I had to correct her, and then towards the end of the thing, I said to her, "Hey, at this point, I don't even think it's ethical for me to sell this to you because you don't have the level of clarity to participate." I said to her, "I need you to go and find that clarity, and I need you to come back to me when you're ready. And don't worry about a week. You could message me whenever you're ready." So I denied her the sale. That
Hmm.
was just yesterday. I'm the one who shut it down. And I explained to her like this. I explained it in two ways, and this is the correct perspective as a business owner. I said to her, the current price of what you're looking at, what we're talking about, at your level of clarity, right? It actually, and check this out, Bobby. It actually costs me more money to fulfill on her service for what she's paying me because of her level of clarity.
Hmm.
Because for me, I have to spend too much time going back and forth with you, and my time is valuable. And by the time we get ready, by the time we get done, whatever you would have paid for the service is not going to be enough.
Yeah.
So, from a business perspective, it doesn't even make economic sense for me to take you on as a client. Now, I didn't say that to her in that way. I just said to her, right now, I don't think it's ethical for me to sell you because you're not at that level of clarity where we could just boom, 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 execute on that. You still have to figure stuff out. Like, you haven't decided what you want to sell, you haven't decided what you're going to do, you haven't decided your direction. Like, these are stuff that you need to know, right? So, that's being a professional, that's being able to say no. Okay, and then she thanked me. I even gave her some free resources and stuff like that. And then, whenever she's ready, she'll get back to me. If she doesn't, and then you move on. That's it.
Hmm.
But at least I left her better than I found her. That's the point, right? So you want to get to that point. If you have a reluctance to selling, you have the wrong perspective. That's it. The
Yeah.
people, I'll use the car example. People talk about sleazy car salesmen and stuff like that while they're driving in their car. So if you ask somebody, what did you pull up here in? All right. How did you get here? Did you take a plane? Did you take the bus? No, some people say, well, I drove my car. So you're telling me you bought a car, right? But then you have something against car salespeople. That doesn't make no sense. You have something against amateurs. You need to deal with a professional who is not attached to the sale, who is actually there to help you. And then when you understand economics, and when you respect somebody, you understand that people's time is valuable, and then you want to pay people for their time. That's
Yeah.
all it is. So for me, it was really literally getting the right perspective, and also understanding what money is. Like, I think people, because I told a young lady, it doesn't make sense. Like, you can underbuy something, Bobby. Let me explain. You can underbuy, and then you can overspend. So you can underbuy and then you can overbuy. So for example, what does that mean? It's like, okay, let's say Joel. So let's say Joel needs something, and the thing that Joel needs costs $10,000. But let's just say that Joel, let's say he doesn't have the perspective, so he's still like, that's like 10K is a little too much, right? And Joel's like, well, let me do the 5K option. Okay, so let's say Joel buys the 5K option. If the 5K option does not have what Joel needs, Joel literally just wasted $5,000 because now he spent money to get something that cannot help him, as opposed to spending more money to get something that can help him. So you can underbuy, but at the same time, as a salesperson, you can also oversell. That is a thing. So it's all about getting the right perspectives. And once you have the right perspectives, there's no reluctance because you're doing something to help people.
Yeah. And Junior, one of the other things that I like about understanding sales is that when you're self-employed, you are the salesperson. You
Mhm.
know, when you're self-employed, you are the salesperson. And most coaches, consultants, speakers, community managers, course creators, they're all self-employed. They are becoming business owners. Some of them are business owners, but many of them are self-employed. And when you're self-employed, they say ABC, always be closing. And one of the things about being a sales professional is you want to be building a sales career. And most people, I don't think, have that mindset, because I didn't have that mindset when I first got started. When I first got started, I had the turn and burn mindset. I was like, if they don't buy today, on to the next one. I did not understand. I didn't have the maturity of follow up. I didn't have the maturity of no is not yet. You know, I did not think that no doesn't mean no, it just means not yet. So what I would do is I would leave a lot of not yet money for the competition to come in and collect after I get the guys all warmed up, right? Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to work hard, serve, and then give their profits to someone else. But that's what happens when we don't have a marathon mindset, in my experience. So one of the first things that I would say to do is figure out, are you a good sales professional or not? That's the first step, because I was not necessarily a closer before I took closing like a leader. Like, I was not a sales professional yet. Like, had I sold some stuff before? Yeah. But did I understand the psychology of sales? No. Did I understand the psychology of buying? No. Did I understand luxury positioning? No. Like, I didn't understand. And I didn't understand scripts. I didn't understand professionalism. I didn't understand elegant experiences and how to curate those experiences through the way I position questions. So one of the first things that I think you can do when you're building your business and you're taking it seriously is asking the self-realizing question, which is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would I rate myself as a salesman or a saleswoman? If it's a 1, okay, great. It's a 1. What do I need to do to make that a 5? If you're a 9 or you feel like you're a 10, then the question is, what do I have to do to increase my prices? Or what do I have to do to get in front of more people if you feel like you have a 80, 90% close rate, 75% close rate? And then let's say, great, you're a phenomenal closer. But are you getting in front of enough people, and are you closing at high prices? And those are the things that I believe distinguish the winners in the early stages of entrepreneurship from those that struggle. And when I say winners, I mean those that make it to the next stage, because some people get stuck. And what I mean by getting stuck is, I mean, they get to a point where they are making money, but they've also got all these expenses, right? And then they get to this point where the expenses start to outpace the revenue. Now they're still making revenue, but they're making less revenue than they're making purchases, because they see the next purchase as the next investment, the next thing to get the business to the next level, but they're not seeing the sales. And if they're not seeing the sales necessary to sustain the growth or to sustain the operating expenses, because marketing is an operating expense, guys. Getting out there in front of your ideal client is a marketing expense. And marketing is agnostic to a degree to sales, because marketing doesn't care about how many sales you made. For example, if you have an ad, if ads is what's generating leads for you, the ads budget is agnostic or unaffected by the amount of sales you make from those leads. So what that means is that one of the easiest ways to go out of business with a good product and a good offer is not enough sales. And that's because you could be marketing a good product, you can market with a good offer, but if you can't close the deal and collect the cash, then all the marketing efforts really don't convert. So that's something that I think is really interesting about sales, and why it's definitely mandatory to get over sales reluctance.
100%. Guys, we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, more on sales. Stay tuned.
The difference between sales and closing, I get this all of the time, guys. Closing is elegant. Closing is luxurious. Closing is the most profitable. Sales, high pressure tactics. No one associates car sales, right, the sleazy sales tactics, with closing, because closing is elegant. Closing is excellent. You have to be a professional in order to close deals. Listen, when you do this the right way, when you learn what we're going to teach you in here, your clients will be trying to close you, and they won't let you close them for low numbers. So you'll be able to heighten, increase your profitability, increase your visibility, increase your reach, and increase your impact in the marketplace, and be confident and comfortable charging higher prices than you ever thought possible to the right people who can actually pay for them, and then say thank you for closing them. So when you're young, Mommy tells you to play nice. Play nice, Timmy. Let all of the other kids play too. But in business, it's not about playing nice. In business, it's about winning. It's about adding multiple zeros to your revenue. Now, of course, your staff wins. And when you win, other people win. However, when it comes to competition, you absolutely must dominate. You can't play for participation, and you can't play just to get along or just to get by, because business is serious. Business will help you to change the world, or the world will change you. Your people will either win or your people will lose based on your level of leadership, what you're willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice, and how much you know about dominating.
All right, guys, welcome back. If you've enjoyed this so far, go ahead and put some flames in the comments. Bobby, so far we've got a lot into sales. I love that ad that Sean has, because Sean distinguishes the difference between sales and closing. So let's get into that. So my question to you is, how do you interpret the difference between sales and closing?
So I like what Shaan says. He says closing is what you do after they say no. So sales is just like, oh, they come in, they know what they want, you sell them what they're looking for, and then everybody's happy. But closing, that's the cascading yeses. That's when the prospect has an objection and they believe their objection more than they believe you and your product. And closing is the process of navigating the prospect through their own minefield of objections to the actual close, because this is assuming that they really do want to do it. Like they want to purchase it, they want to have the product, but they just haven't seen, they haven't taken possession of it. They don't see how they can have it. So the closer really helps them to see how they can have what they know they want. And I think that's the separation between, for me at least, closing and sales. Sales is they already know what they want and they know how they can get it. All you're doing is giving it to them in exchange for cash. But closing is they know what they want, but they believe their objections more than they believe that they can have what they want. And the closer's job is to overcome those objections effectively along with the client, to walk the client through that and to close the client on purchasing what they know they want. And I think that's the difference.
Interesting. For me, I think sales is everything leading up to the close. So I believe that sales is, or selling rather, is the process of moving a potential client from one stage of the pipeline to the next. So in other words, as soon as you encounter someone, sales has already begun. So sales begins in your mind. Like the first step is attitude. The first step is your energy, your vibe, your perspective. It starts there. But like let's say you do phone sales. If when you jump on the phone, it's already started, correct? It's already started. So the process of moving that person from being, let's say you do cold calls, or, so, getting that person cold, um, getting them to schedule the appointment, that's sales. Getting them to show up to the appointment, that's sales. Getting them to select the product, like the correct product selection, that's sales. Getting them to the point where you make the trial close, that's sales. Getting to the point where you send out an agreement, like an agreement gets sent, that's also sales. So sales for me is moving potential clients from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 to stage 4. Like your job is to just help them move through the pipeline, so to speak, through the process. And then you get to the closing point, like you said, when that person eventually says no. Well, basically, when they have to make a decision, that's when you get to the closing point. And that's where you so closing is literally, you make a deal. So it's negotiation, it's making a deal, it's coming to a close. So it's coming to a mutually beneficial point where both parties can agree and a deal can be made. That makes sense. So to me, that's what I define as the difference. Like everything up until the point where you actually have to help somebody make that decision, that final decision, to me, that is sales.
Yeah, I agree, Junior. I think that that's a great way to think about it as far as the sales pipeline is concerned, because I remember I was randomly in the office and I was like, let me make some calls. So I hopped on the call, but I didn't have the script pulled up. And then boom, somebody answered the phone. I was like, okay, great. So then I just pulled down this sales pipeline that I had, because I had it written down in the 12 steps, 12 steps of the sales pipeline. And I just went through them, each step. And as I went through each step of the sales pipeline, they got closer and closer to the close. And then boom, my trial closed them on the phone and moved them to a Zoom, I believe. And then from there, we just kept having the conversation until we got to the contract. And then we went ahead, signed the contract, and we're out of there. And the reason I share that example is because if you go through the steps, all 12 steps, and you don't miss a step, like, your chances of closing the deal, in my experience, are higher than if you just jump to the close, or if you just jump to the trial close. It's like if you just go through the process, greet them, do some fact finding, all right, make sure that you understand what the problem is, and then go deeper into that, and then run that trial close early, sooner than later. Check their liquidity. Can they afford you? Did you qualify them? Like, if you do those things, the chances of you getting the sale are much higher. And I think when we talk about sales in this capacity, it can seem a bit technical, but if you're not there yet, let's say you are just opening your business and 5K a month, 12K a month, that's a good month for you. Like, okay, no problem. You may not have systems and procedures such as sales scripts and different objection handling tactics that are ironed out for your company. If you don't, what I would recommend is just start annotating what works. So Junior tells me something that I think is really good. He says, repeat successful actions. And sometimes you're not in that place where you have everything figured out, where you have a sales system that is churning and burning and it's cranking out sales for you and turning leads into money day in and day out. And if that's not happening, that's okay. And if you don't understand the various steps of the sales process, that's okay too. Like, have you closed the deal? Yes, you have, most likely. Okay, take that. Let's take that. What did that experience look like? Where did you go to find them? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? How many deals have you missed? If you've closed a deal, I bet my money that you've missed some deals, because very few deals close on the first try. Very few people close every deal that they ever attempt to close. So that means you have the ability to compare and contrast, because you know what has worked, then you know what hasn't worked. So taking those and really starting to build out something for yourself will be a good step if you don't feel like you're at that level where you got it all ironed out yet.
100%. 100%. And Bobby, we're gonna get into those steps on the inside of the academy, by the way. So if you're in the Branded Like a Leader Academy, or you're inside the Leadership Leverage, we definitely will be covering those steps. Make no mistake. But yeah, so let's go a little bit deeper though. Let's go a little bit deeper into what the actual process looks like. And by the way, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the comments if you have any questions. And keep the flames coming as well. So Bobby, let's talk about, like, what does that process look like? Because, like, in my process, I still have questions. Because one person it's easy to get somebody to that call, but once you get them there, there's still questions that needs to be answered. So do you have a particular question based process that you go through when you close?
Oh, 100%. 100%. So when I close, I do my best to manage the energy. And I do that by my question sequence. So the first series of questions that I will ask will normally be about the prospect, get them talking, because there's sometimes a bit of a ice barrier. So you got to break the ice. You guys have heard about this, icebreakers. So one of my first questions is like an icebreaker. Like, tell me a little bit about yourself. Once they tell me a little bit about who they are, they're talking. They're talking. And who doesn't want to talk about themselves, right? Everybody wants to talk about themselves. So after they talk about themselves a little bit, I then ask them, this is a strategic sequence question because once they've talked about themselves, they're excited. And now that they talk about their problem, it's almost like it's not complaining, but they finally get to tell their problem to someone that'll listen. See, as entrepreneurs, we already know nobody cares about our excuses. Nobody cares about our problems. People just want results. So it's really nice sometimes for entrepreneurs to be able to tell somebody what's going on. So that's the second thing I do is I'm like, okay, now what's the problem? What is holding you up? Then from there, I like to move right into liquidity. So the last thing you want to do is waste your time on the calls with people that cannot afford your services or that are just not in a place to make an investment in themselves. And that's something that I try to identify as quickly as possible. I'll say, okay, great. This is what's going on. So based on what you've shared with me so far, this is what it looks like you're looking for. We have things like this. What is your, so I use like a light way of asking this. I say, you could think of us as a car dealership. We have things on the Lamborghini side of the house and we have things on reliable transportation side of the house. However, we understand some people are just shopping. Which are you? So that's me kind of getting an idea of what their budget is without having to really throw hard numbers out there, depending on who they are. If they're experienced, like, and they've been around the block a few times, then I'd probably ask a more direct liquidity question. But if I can tell they're kind of new to this, they probably would be shocked if I started throwing numbers out within the first 2 to 3 minutes of the call. Then I'll tell them, hey, we're like a dealership. You can buy Lamborghini or reliable transportation, or are you just looking? Once they tell me where they are, that lets me kind of know what product selection might make the most sense for this prospect. So that's what I do next is I go and look at product selection. I walk them through what product we have that best suits their solution and also falls in this range of the car that they're looking for. So now we're still talking cars. Once we've done that piece, then I will trial close. Trial close, I will simply say, so based on what you shared with me, this product is in a line with our mid-tier luxury vehicle. And based on your budget, this seems like the best thing for you. Would you like to hear how you can get into this vehicle today? So now I'm painting them into possession of it. They would say something like, sure, and now because they don't feel like they don't feel like they're about to buy a product. They feel like they're walking through a car. So it's like all I'm doing at this point is building a series of yeses. Yes, show me more. Yes, walk me through it. Yes, show me the bells and the whistles. Okay, sure. And once I've showed them all the bells and the whistles, the last thing now is to handle any objections that I haven't already handled. So for me, when I do the trial close, I like to handle the objections at the same time. So I'm about to wrap up and turn it over to Junior, but I just want to give you guys my psychology when I'm thinking through it. So once I've gotten them to this point and everything looks good, what I like to do next is trial close them and handle any common objections. So I would say something like, a lot of people have worked with coaches before us, and the coaches that they work with have done phenomenal jobs for them. And we know that people come to us when they're ready to make serious investments in their progress. So we don't have any prices that are bargain basement, but we do have areas where you can enter in if you're just a beginner. So that lets them know that the prices are high, so on and so forth. So just to pull this all to a head, that's when I close. So once they know what I've presented to them, so to speak, they've let me know what they want to pay or what their budget is. I've handled the common objections, and all it is a matter of collecting the cash payment and getting them into their vehicle. That's what it looks like. Very simple, very elegant, very question oriented. And they tell me what they want, and I get it to them.
Very nice. Guys, we're going to go to one more quick break. When we come back, more on closing.
I said Shaan Ride East. I'm proud. I said Shaan Ride East. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and you know, game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes. There's slow growth and then there's scale. There's incremental growth and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a 0 to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 + 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 + 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 + 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 + 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a 0 to you, you can add a 0 to the marketplace. You can add a 0 to the value that you bring. So you can add a 0 to your family, add a 0 to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a 0. Add a 0 to your competence, add a 0 to your confidence. This is about adding a 0 in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow.
All right, guys, so we are back and we're talking about the art and the science of closing. And Bobby, I guess Bobby was walking us through, a little bit of his process, giving us a little bit of an insider look at how he does it, right? Bobby, for the rest of the conversation, I sort of want to pivot a little bit to sort of the transformations, because that's super important. I think people need to hear about the transformations that take place, when this is done right, meaning that the progress that people make, the way that people elevate their life, and not just you as, I'm not talking about only the client, but you also as a salesperson, your life is also elevated from I'm gonna say not really from, I'm not coming from like a material perspective. I'm coming from more of an energetic and a spiritual sort of perspective. So for me, I feel like I'll give you this really interesting story, Bobby. So in closing like a leader, okay, Shaan talks about the connection between the mind, body, and spirit, and also in branded like a leader as well. So we have spirit, mind, body. Now, I don't drink. So that's something I don't do. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I have nothing against that, but that's not something I do. But back in the day, before I started closing, I used to drink just a little bit, not to get drunk and stuff like that. I was, like any young man, right? Just having fun, doing my thing. But then sometime, a couple years ago, I saw something really, really weird. Really weird. I realized, Bobby, and tell me if this ever happened to you. Once I went out and I went by the beach. Now, I had a couple calls that I just booked that day. And I stopped by the beach and I said to myself, let me just take a drink. So I had a little drink, just something light. And then I kid you not, this is like so weird, like a spooky science. As soon as it was like a bear. As soon as I popped it open, I look at my phone and the appointment canceled. Like, bro, I'm telling you, it canceled. I said, huh? I said, okay, I didn't take that for anything. I said, whatever, that's all right. And then it happened a second time, appointment canceled. And then when it happened the third time, I said, okay, there's an interesting alignment here. And then well, now, like I said, I don't drink. So I realized, like, in the moments I said, let me test something out. So in those moments, I said no. I said no drink. And then I went home and I closed nominally. I said, okay, there's an interesting sort of energetic, I use the word energetic thing going on here, where there's a link, and it's not necessarily anything to do with drinking. It has to do with alignment with your core beliefs, whatever that is. So I'm not saying like if you drink, you're not gonna close. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you're doing something that does not align with your belief in yourself, your like the standards that you set for yourself, like if you're not in complete alignment with you, not with me, but with you, for some weird reason, Bobby, strange stuff starts to happen when it comes to closing.
Mm-hmm.
Appointments don't show up. People that already agreed to do business with you, they just don't do business with you, and you don't know why. Like weird stuff starts to happen. It's almost as if you not doing one thing that you agreed to do for yourself throws your entire program off. And I don't know if you've experienced this. I don't know if you've even been conscious of this, because this is not something like if you're not observant, you will not even be conscious that this is happening. What's going to happen to you, Bobby? You will book an appointment literally today, this morning. You could, jump off the call after you book the appointment. You do something that doesn't align with who you are. You show up to the call, the appointment that you just booked 2 hours ago doesn't show. And you're like, hold on, what's going on? I just spoke to this person. Or you talk to them on the phone, they'll agree, they'll get the link, and they just disappear. Like they never existed. The phone doesn't ring. It's like they just disappear. And to you, you're like, well, I guess they just forgot about it. But I want you to test this out. Test it out and come back here and let us know. Okay? Test it out, Bobby.
Mm-hmm.
Like just be conscious of your energy. Like what are the commitments that you've made to yourself? So if you've and this is for everybody listening, if you've committed like, okay, I'm gonna work out every single day, and you don't work out, there's an energetic shift. There's an energetic alignment that causes, it's like causation. It's like cause and effect. But the effect is an energetic effect, not something that you could really see. Like there's no logical way to explain why those leads canceled immediately after I opened that drink. There's no logical way. But energetically, I understand why. And those are some of the stuff that I don't really hear people talking about. But from my experience, it exists. So, in other words, and by the way, the opposite is also true. If you get in energetic alignment, so that's why meditation works. If you get in energetic alignment during your process, so you work out, you read, you pray, you meditate, you tend to get better results because it is an energetic shift at that point. And I believe everything is energy. I literally believe that everything is energy. So you doing something that breaks your word to yourself shifts your energy, and every cause has an effect, every effect has a cause, and that effect shows up in your results, and it shows up in different ways that sometimes you cannot see, you cannot logically see with your human eye. But if you're in tune with your energetic self, you could notice.
Wow. In tune with your energetic self. That's powerful, Junior.
Yeah.
Geesh, I'm thinking back to how I feel when I break commitments. I think it was Walter D. Wallace or Wallace D. Waddles. He wrote the Science of Getting Rich, and he wrote the Science of Being Great. And in this book, he talks about compromise and power. He was saying something along the lines: every time you compromise your commitments, you do so at an expense of power. And I think that all people are powerful. However, it's very difficult to be confident and powerful and attractively aggressive, right? Attractively aggressive. Like, it's hard to be all those things if you're breaking your commitments to yourself. And I think it's difficult to do that because I don't think human beings are naturally dishonest. I think that's something we learn to be. Like a child, they are just children. They do what is unacceptable, but they do it regardless because that's who they are. So I say that to say, I think when we know better and we do better and we set systems and parameters for living life well, then the more authentic we are, the more honest we are, the more integrity that we live with, the more power that we allow to flow through us because we're more in alignment, like Junior was saying. I think the alignment has to do with removing blockages and less than it has to do with getting everything into proper, alignment. It's more of like, if you're out of alignment, you got blockages. If you're in alignment, you have no blockages. And the power in us, I believe, flows through regardless. However, some of us can have more blockages than others. And I think being honest, authentic, and living with integrity is a great way to reduce blockages as a sales professional.
100%. All right, guys. So we've arrived at the top of the hour. This has been absolutely amazing, Bobby. Guys, if you've enjoyed this, my only ask is that you share it with like literally one other person that you know. Of course, Bobby and I. Oh, by the way, so this is actually Memorial Day weekend for you guys in the US, right?
That's right.
All right. So, guys, if you're celebrating, which I believe everybody is, like, have a phenomenal, phenomenal holiday weekend. Celebrate, have fun. Bobby, we're gonna air an episode on Monday. We will not be live, but we will be, playing, like, replaying one of our old episodes on Monday. So, guys, thank you so much for joining. Have a phenomenal and safe weekend. All right. So, have a phenomenal day. Bobby, is there anything you want to say before we sign off?
No, sir. Absolute pleasure, guys. I'll see you all next week.
All right, guys. So, phenomenal, phenomenal day. Take care. Speak soon. Bye.